name is Adam Bierton, and we are at the New York Botanical Garden at the Edible Academy. I went to School of the Arts up in Rochester, New York, and right before I graduated, I started playing with pumpkins and trying to apply all my sculptural knowledge into this medium. I've been doing this for my entire life, but I've been professionally pumpkin carving for about 10 years. I was picked up by a local pumpkin carving crew, became professional pumpkin carver. The Food Network reached out to me and asked me to participate in Halloween Wars, which I ended up winning season 5 with the Scream team, Go Scream team. And then from there, I participated in another spin-off called Halloween Wars Hayride of Horror, which was awesome. I've been here at the garden for the last couple of years doing these demonstrations, and they're great fun, and I can't wait to get into more details and show you all the tips and tricks of a professional pumpkin carver. We're going to be using some sharp tools today, so make sure that there's an adult present. When it comes to picking your pumpkin, there's a lot of good things to look for. And it really depends on what style of carving you're going to be doing. The traditional jack-o'-lantern is done on an orange varietal. It's your most common pumpkin, everybody's familiar with. And there's some great indicators to show what a good pumpkin is. When I'm searching for a pumpkin, I'm looking for a really long, green, healthy stem. You'll see a lot of the ones at the supermarkets are brown and short. Not to say that those are bad pumpkins, but if you can find one with a long green stem, that indicates that it's fresh. Next, when you're searching for a pumpkin, you really want to find a healthy looking pumpkin, something with a nice bright orange finish and maybe a semi-smooth texture. Beyond that, there's some other indicators on here. At the top of the stem, you might see some mold or some mildew kind of growing there. And you kind of want to avoid that if you can. You can see how this one is nice and dry. Same thing on the bottom of the pumpkin. Finding a nice fresh pumpkin, green stem, no mold or mildew, and you know you're in good shape. Now this is the best way to scoop your pumpkin. Traditionally, you would cut a hole around the top of the stem and pick it off and scoop out from the top. Nothing wrong with that. I like to think that the stem has a lot of the character of the pumpkin, and that's what I like to bring to life. So more recently in the professional pumpkin carving world, I've stopped cutting a hole in the top primarily and go in the back of the pumpkin. So you want to find the face of your pumpkin where you want to do your design and go right on the opposite of that. And you'll see we're going to do a hexagon shape, big enough to fit your hand in. And I'm just using a pen here. This is just a Pilot pen. You can use a magic marker. Probably don't want to use a permanent marker because then it wouldn't wipe off. But these pens right here are great. And you can see that I'm going to do a hexagon shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's just a guideline of where I want to go. And you can adjust from there. I'm using a basic paring knife. It's nice and sharp. Again, be careful. Make sure that you have an adult with you. And I'm going to hold the pumpkin by the stem and keep it stable on the table and use back and forth sawing motions right on the lines that I've already pre-drawn. And we want to go all the way out, all the way around. The trick is that you want to overcut your previous cut line. So then that way it'll pop out easier, not missing anything. So I'm just going over just a little bit, just to be safe. I'm going to use the tip of my knife just to kind of wedge in here and pry this thing open. Again, be very careful. You don't want to hurt yourself on this prop. And you can see all the guts in the pumpkin. And now we're going to scoop. I have 2 examples of our scoopers here. This is an avocado scoop that I got at the grocery store. And this is a more basic pumpkin scooper that you can find. And what I want to do is I want to just get all of this stringy guts right off of the entire pumpkin. Now, you can save some of these guts for later because these can kind of be a cool addition to your carving. You can kind of, you know, make them hang out of the mouth or something. They're really fun. And beyond that, pumpkin seeds are great and they're tasty and you can cook them. So what I do is I like to clean up our little square, and I even put a little chamfer on these edges. Because believe it or not, the cleaner the inside of your pumpkin, the longer the pumpkin will stay alive and fresh, because all that rot and mildew is going to start on this stringy stuff. That's where the mold starts, and once it starts, you can't stop it. So what you want to do is use these tools and get right in there. Don't be scared. It's looking pretty clean in here. Just gonna do one more pass. Make sure there's nothing loose in there. Okay. I don't know if you can get in there, but that is one clean pumpkin. You can see that there's no stringy mess or any seeds in there. And I have a little pro tip here. This is lemon juice and water, and it's gonna be a great little antibacterial to prevent the mold from growing. Similar to how you would put a potato and lemon juice to keep it from turning brown. Same idea. We're just gonna mist the inside of the pumpkin, as well as this little piece. And that's gonna prevent all that decay from happening. And then I'll keep this handy for when I'm carving too, and use it throughout my piece. So first things first is we wanna think of a design. I usually look at the pumpkin for the design, rather than getting a set idea in my head before I choose my pumpkin. I think that some of these misshaped pumpkins have a lot of character in them, and it's good to just kind of look at him and see if he's a happy pumpkin, if he's sad, if he's angry. All of those things are really fun. And I think that this guy looks happy. What I want to do is find the center of my pumpkin here and just kind of see maybe where his mouth is going to end up. And I feel like this guy's got a big grin. I'm going to kind of over-exaggerate his mouth. Maybe it goes all the way down to the bottom here. Again, our traditional jack-o'-lanterns are very easy. You still want to have some type of guideline here to see where you're cutting. And you don't have to be committed to this drawing. It's just kind of a rough idea of where you want to start, and you can adjust from there. So maybe there's a little curl at the end of his mouth. And we want to make sure that we're trying to line this up correctly. Here's one of my tools that I'm going to use today. This is an ice cream scoop that I got from the grocery store, and I've just kind of removed some of the guts, the little clicker part. And this is a perfect circle. And you can see on some of my other demo pumpkins here that I have these white eyes, which I'm going to cover in a little later in the tutorial, but those are actually potatoes and carrots, and this is the tool that I use. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to push into the pumpkin just to kind of get a guide of where his eyes are going to be. Maybe they're close together, but instead of two full eyes, I'm also going to draw over these marks. Again, that was just a guide to give me a perfect circle on here, because otherwise drawing a perfect circle is nearly impossible. And then from here, if we wanted to give this guy teeth, we could add in some big jagged teeth like this, some more jack-o'-lantern-y style. Maybe he's got two big fangs, maybe some little teeth down here. And these would all be great to lay out if you're gonna leave those in with the skin. My idea is that I'm gonna blend some of these carving techniques for you today, so you kind of get a whole roundabout picture of all the styles of carving. So instead of leaving the teeth like I have on this jack-o'-lantern, I'm gonna do an etching style for the mouth. We'll jack-o'-lantern his eyes, and then maybe later in the demonstration we can play with some other materials to kind of enhance this carving. It's really important to have a nice sharp knife. Make sure you're being super careful and you have adult supervision if you're doing this at home. But you're actually more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than a sharp knife, believe it or not. So make sure you're being careful. I'm gonna use my paring knife for this. There's other fancier knives that you could use. This is one of my detailing knives. And even beyond that, this is an X-Acto blade, which is again, very standard stuff at an art supply store or online. And maybe I'll start with this. Again, what I wanna do is I wanna try to create a perfect circle here. I have my guideline drawn in. So I'm gonna open up this eye first for you. And the wall of this pumpkin is much thicker than this little tiny knife. However, I'm not worried about the wall of the pumpkin. I'm really just worried about the skin. The skin is the toughest part of the pumpkin. And once you get past the skin, the interior of the pumpkin is lovely and juicy and perfect for carving. So really, I just want to make sure my cut is through the skin of the pumpkin, and then we'll worry about the rest after. Depending on the thickness of your blade, it can be helpful to use your scraper tool to thin out the wall of this pumpkin. That way you're not fighting with a really thick piece of a pumpkin, especially when you're trying to remove the jack-o'-lantern. So when we're in that scooping stage, you can kind of take a lot of material away to help yourself. I'm just gonna go back over my cuts again until I feel it loosen up. I'm actually gonna go in from the back here, try to pop this guy. And there she is. You can see some of that interior wall. And I'm just gonna save this for later, just in case I wanna use it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just use my regular paring knife here and go back in and clean up this circle. And that's a nice perfect circle. You can see all the way through with that light. And if I cover it up with our piece here, it'll go dark again. And that's number one. And on to number two. I'm actually gonna use this style of blade just to get a little bit better penetration here. And again, you can see I have my hand on the pumpkin with my thumb out, and I'm actually holding my hand so I'm not jumping around. Rather than just going in with a loosey-goosey hand, you have a point of stability here. Now that's your traditional jack-o'-lantern, right? You're going all the way through to the interior of the pumpkin. You could light that with a candle and he'd look really spooky at night. For the mouth, instead of cutting out this whole shape all the way through, I'm actually gonna employ an etching style where we're only just gonna be taking off the skin of the pumpkin. This is gonna allow me to use some of this flesh to sculpt and maybe give him the teeth. So his teeth won't have this fleshy skin on it, but it'll be more of this bright orange, and you can kind of see it on this little dude here. I've kind of done the same idea. So this could be done with an X-Acto blade or a paring knife, and you would literally just trace the line, but you wouldn't go all the way through. If you'd like to make your life easier, this is a handy little tool. It's a linoleum cutter by Speedball, and these are available online or at an art store. And this has a little groove in it. These are for printmaking, but they work wonders on pumpkin. And I'm just gonna, again, trace my line with this outer blade, being very careful, stabilizing myself with my thumb. You can see how this kind of just grooves right in and pops the skin off. And I'm gonna end it here and save that little detail for later. All right, so we have our mouth kind of roughed in, and I can continue to use this tool to scrape the skin off. You can see how it makes little lines. And these little drops are actually really cool. You could save these and, you know, use them as hair or a mustache. I mean, the whole idea of pumpkin carving is that you get creative, use your imagination, and don't take it too seriously. The next tool I'm gonna use is a clay loop. These tools are for clay sculpting, and again, can be found at any art store or online. And they come in a variety of different shapes and sizes, all the way down to a little teeny weeny one. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start with this triangle, and I'm gonna pull away from our line. I wanna be careful not to mess up this nice crisp line. I'm going to drop down to a smaller tool for our more detailed areas so I don't mess up. right tool, and once you get past the skin, that's the really hard part. This nice meaty flesh sculpts really easy. And these clay tubes are perfect for it. Just kind of dragging these tools across the surface of the pumpkin, just shaving it off. You can see I'm just taking small amounts off right now. And we're gonna do a little bit of a blend here between a sculpt and a jack-o'-lantern. So I'm gonna go all the way through in some parts of this mouth, but leave some of this meat for teeth and gums and whatever else. You could leave some area for a tongue. Now, you won't be able to draw on this surface because it's too moist. So really, what you're gonna do is draw with one of these tools. You could use the back side of a tool and kind of mark this area. But I just wanna get a gum line of maybe about an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Might remove the majority of this so you can see right through. I'll use my trusty paring knife here. And I'm actually gonna leave more than I want. Even though I've drawn the line up here, I'm actually gonna cut below it because you can't put the material back on, but you could take it out. And I might actually, just for fun, leave a little square here. Maybe it's got an orange tooth. This guy's looking good for a jack-o'-lantern style carve. Again, I've left some of this meat in here for sculpting, which is great. And hopefully you can stick around. I'm gonna add some more edible materials to this guy and develop on him. And hopefully you can see the final result. Last time we left off, we were at just a basic kind of jack-o'-lantern carving. I left some of this meat down here for some teeth and some gums. And I went ahead and I've been using pieces of potato and carrot and anything else I can find to kind of bring more life to this pumpkin. So I have a potato and a carrot eyeball. I ended up getting rid of that pumpkin tooth that I left there before and just kind of recreating it with pieces of pumpkin. All these have been dipped in that lemon juice slurry to keep them nice and white. Maybe I skipped over a few, so those ones will turn brown and give it even more character. Yeah, some sticky kind of viney arms, and I don't know what you think, but this guy's pretty cool. Thanks so much for joining us, and please feel free to follow me on Instagram at Bierton. I'd love to see all your wonderful creations. You can tag me and hashtag NYBG. Thanks for joining us, and happy Halloween, everyone.